All right, just finished watching the State of the Union address. It's if you didn't watch it, it's safe to say it's exactly how you envisioned it would be. Exactly. Trump going back and forth with the Democrats, pointing the finger pretty much, you're not standing for this, and they weren't standing for things. And then him touting economic policies and healthcare and going after corruption. And I'm basically going to break down what I took away as good things, and then also things that I refer to as bad things that I think either things that aren't true, things that shouldn't have been said, and basically go from there. I have a long laundry list of items. I think this is really, based off of just a truthful assessment here. You got, and for people who don't know what the State of the Union address is, it's essentially just a hoorah speech for the president. There's nobody there. There are some people yelling some things from the stands essentially, but there's really no rebuttal live. I mean, I know Democrats are doing their own rebuttal after the recording, but there's nobody there that's going to say, no, that's not true. The cameras are going to, and the microphones are going to go to them and then get their insight. This is really just the president putting together a speech, exactly what they want the country to hear, and say it. And basically, these speeches, since the beginning of them, are pretty much just the president telling you how good you have it, how good it is to be living under their presidential era, and how good and lucky you should feel that they're president. That's pretty much every State of the Union address. It total an hour and 47 minutes. These speeches are typically like an hour or less. They're generally never close to 2 hours. This is the longest State of the Union address speech ever. So I'm going to start with the good that I thought was good. I love that Trump started the speech by saying 100% of the jobs created in his administration have been in the private sector, which speaks volumes because that means he's not adding to the deficit. He's acknowledging that our government is humongous, and we have so many branches of government that the average citizen doesn't even know exists, but yet are getting so much of our tax dollars. So him saying that, it's a really good start, I thought, to the speech by saying this, because he's trying to create jobs for the private citizen. And that only helps the country. That's like I would say the capital or the nucleus of a capitalistic society is creating more jobs in the private sector. I thought that was a great start, especially setting the stage to trying to talk about the economy. I do like that he brought out the men's hockey team who just won the gold. I think I did a little bit of research on this. He did invite the women's team, but allegedly there was a scheduling conflict I saw that the women couldn't come for whatever reason. All right, I get it. But that was pretty much the height of the applause for the night, was when the men's hockey team came out, where the applause sounded the loudest, where it seemed like everyone there was engaged in supporting that as well. And that's really a great moment of bringing people together, a chance to bring people together on that, because it's really hard to not cheer for that. So I did really like that part. Kind of expected. It's just great timing. I mean, they just won the gold. A couple days later, the State of the Union address. So taking advantage of the timing. And these shout-outs, I think are great. I really do like this. I like the bringing, what I call your average citizen out in front of the country's spotlight and highlighting them. This really did become a consistent theme in the State of the Union addresses that really began with Ronald Reagan back in 1982, where, you bring either a guest just to have them sit there and show their support, or you also acknowledge them at the same time, and you give everybody in the country a deeper insight into how this person contributed to our country, which I think is really great that every president really has carried on that legacy. On January 26th, 1982, Reagan basically, I would say that would be one of the first ones to do this, where he brought on a guy named Lenny Skutnik, who was a federal government employee who dove into the icy Potomac River after the Air Florida crash and saved a woman's life. So I do like this trend. I hope it keeps going. I think it is great. Presidents have obviously used these moments and these people to help push their political agenda as much as they possibly can. It's you're starting to see that shift go, where it's not just necessarily thanking the average citizens for their service in some type of way, but it's also now like, okay, well, does this prove my political point even further if I handpick this person? You're starting to see that in the last probably 10 to 15 years that come out. But, there's still plenty that are completely apolitical. I mean, Barack Obama brought on a guy named Brian Murphy in his 2013 address, where he had a police officer from Wisconsin who was a first responder to a shooting at a Sikh temple. And the guy continued to fight the shooters and was shot himself 12 times and survived. So I thought that was, when you go back and look at some of the guests that have been brought on, it is really cool to see these citizens make it to the highest level. So I also thought Trump handled the tariffs debacle really well in comparison to him expressing how disappointed he was in the Supreme Court just a couple days ago, and now the Supreme Court is sitting right in front of him in the first row. And he didn't call them out to their face, and I think that there was a good move. That's kind of something you kind of expect from him to do, is lay on that gas pedal. And I think it also, he's probably doing that from a tactical approach, because he also knows that he needs them on a lot of upcoming items on their agenda, including citizens' right to vote as well, and being born in this country and being able to vote based off of your birth in this country. So he's a lot of very important cases that the Supreme Court's about to review, which probably did play a small role, at least, in his ability to refrain from insult there. But his insight into the tariffs, I thought, was well, because he essentially just said that the countries that, if the tariffs were eliminated by the Supreme Court, those same countries have agreed to still pay those same tariffs that the Supreme Court said were illegal. And Trump basically said that he was just going to up the tariffs in a different way if they didn't. So those countries, essentially, from what he's saying, have agreed to still pay those. So it's basically a win-win, because you add in money into the country, and you pump money into the country by doing this. And that, over time, does help slow down or decrease inflation, because you're getting money outside and bringing it in without you pumping more money into the nation's cash flow yourself artificially. So the tariffs have worked over time in that regard. So it's good that it sounds like that whole debacle, the tariffs debacle, is over, at least for now. I do like that, we're banning large Wall Street firms from buying thousands of single-family homes, because obviously that just drives up the cost for everybody else looking to buy homes. I think most people can get behind that. I do just wonder, how is it possible to do that? How is it possible to ban large Wall Street firms? So BlackRock buying thousands of single-family homes. Hey, BlackRock, you can't do this anymore. It's against the law. Okay, so instead of putting BlackRock down as the home buyer, let's just create a separate LLC for every single-family home that we buy. I don't know how that's possible, how you can functionally ensure that you know that who's buying the home is not a Wall Street firm behind these different shadow companies. I don't know how you actually do that. I would have loved to hear more on that, because that is just as important than doing some hoorah, the rich can't buy any more homes, so then rent back to all of the buyers trying to buy the homes that were basically outbidded, and now they have to rent those homes from those very Wall Street firms that outbid them. I don't know how you do that. I would have loved to get more details on that, because that would ensure that, okay, next time I try to buy a home and I see these types of buyers, I know that that's illegal. I do like that he made it a point, very similarly here, though, to ban insider trading in Congress, which, is pretty much, I thought was already banned, insider trading. I don't get why he brings up this bill called like the Insider Trading Act or something like that to ban Congress people from from doing insider trading. Insider trading is already illegal. So if something's already illegal and somebody does that very act that is illegal, what's missing is an investigation, presenting evidence, and arresting that person and prosecuting that person for doing that illegal act. So I don't get why we have to pass an act. To me, that I should have probably put this off as in the bad section. But I don't get how it kind of seems to me like a dog and pony show to make it look like we're doing something. It's already illegal. I mean, it's like saying you're not allowed to murder a police officer. Yeah, that's illegal now. It's been illegal. So just a little kind of makes me feel like I'm being rolled around and fooled here. Not sure if that would even pass, because the people that are needing to pass those laws are the ones who are committing the crimes of insider trading. And we know very well that the people who pass laws only pass laws that benefit them personally and financially and their friends. So I just confusing. Feels very dog and pony on this. I do like that he recognized Marco Rubio, because here's a politician here who travels all over the country as Secretary of State, all over the world, excuse me. You're talking, doing high-level work to the highest quality in Venezuela, in Israel, in Ukraine, places we don't even know about, heading off to China. And the guy doesn't make a peep. The guy stays to himself, kills it at his job. Doesn't say, hey, everybody, look at me. Look what I'm doing. Look what I've done. He's just out there making deals under the rug, and seems like a very trustworthy guy. Secretary of State is a position that's it's more important. You need a more important person in that position than you do need as a VP, because the Secretary of State is representing the direct interest of the president without the president actually being there, overseas behind closed doors. And there's been plenty of Secretary of States in the past who have represented their own interest behind those closed doors when it came down to it. I don't see Marco Rubio doing that. I think he's way too busy to be honest, to ever even consider anything but the right now and what's needs to be done in the next week. And I think he's doing a great job, to be honest. And I like that he got recognized for that, because you do need a great Secretary of State. He's the one who can make or break an administration there. And I think Trump also gave him this recognition because Marco has probably saved his ass plenty of times that we don't know about. And the final good of this speech that I walk away with is really, I like the insight that he gave into the Venezuelan raid, where he gave a really good story about Chief Warrant Officer Eric Slover, who Trump actually ended up giving the Congressional Medal of Honor to during the speech, where the warrant officer basically was like the lead helicopter in, starts taking heavy fire, starts getting shot in the legs and the hip, and he turns the helicopter to like face the enemy as they're shooting him in order for the guys to get out of the back of the helicopter under cover as he's just sponging all of these bullets into him. And the soldiers getting out of the helicopter are seeing the blood just rolling down the aisle underneath their boots. And just wow. I mean, his speech on those details was really interesting, because we really haven't, it's really been hush on the Venezuelan raid and the details. And I mean, a couple dozen Venezuelan guards got killed, a couple dozen Cuban soldiers were killed in that, no Americans. And I think Trump also gave Chief Warrant Officer Eric Slover the Congressional Medal of Honor here, because if Slover goes down, the lead helicopter pilot goes down as he's dropping off the soldiers for the raid. If he doesn't make it, a couple soldiers have to adhere to him and not go on the raid. Somebody else has to fly the helicopter back, and now you have less people on the raid. And if Slover dies or doesn't just take those rounds and miraculously survive, this could have been one of the worst disasters in military history for the United States. Disaster. So I think that probably was also considered in this as well. And now onto the bad here, which I just, you know, I got a lot of heat here, you know, because these speeches, they know that they're not going to be criticized live. You know, nobody's debating them, so they can say whatever they want. They can hype things up, which the speech should have ended earlier, because Trump, you know, as the speech got on, just got a little bit more confident, which isn't a bad thing for most, but it is for him because he's a very confident guy. So when he gains even more confidence, it's you know, it's time to do last call and get out of there. So to start, he starts off with calling right now being the golden age in America. Okay, it was in the first 1 minute and 55 seconds, he used the term golden age. I have talked to so many people about the current state of the economy in multiple different cities around the country. The term golden age would never be described to describe the current economy by any of these people, which are people that are just working normal jobs and trying to live normal lives. The term golden age would also never be used to describe the present tense. It's always to describe a previous time. You wouldn't refer to this is going to be the golden age or this is the golden age. You would always refer back to a golden age. like the Roaring 20s. People in the 20s just, probably weren't calling this, yeah, we're in the Roaring 20s right now. Isn't this so great? Look at how much money we're getting. No. Coined afterwards. You refer back to that. Oh, you remember the Roaring 20s? Yeah. Trying to call this the golden age when everybody knows it's not. Let's just factually speaking, it's not the golden age. Trying to call it that is really like, reminds me of Joe Biden speaking, where he's saying something about the economy that just everybody knows it's just not true, and you're trying to make it true by just saying it over and over again. And I feel like every president does this about the economy. You try to pull out some weird stat that no one's ever heard about, and then you try to like implement it on everybody across the country, and very few people would consider this the golden age. I hate that term right now. I freaking hate it, because it's so false. It's so false, and it's dog and pony. I just tell them enough times, and then my friends in the media repeat it, and people will refer to it as the golden age. And we're not stupid. We're really not stupid. People are not going to call this the golden age. They're just not. I also don't like that. Like, apparently, like Fox News got like a copy of the whole speech. Allegedly, like everybody talks about secularism. Like, okay. There's points, but like at the same time, there should be a separation between the media and the government. And this is always the case with presidents now, which is just, if you're a Democrat now, CNN and MSNBC get your speeches beforehand. And if you're a Republican, your Fox News is getting it. And it's just not a good look. It's not good for anybody, except for these media companies. The only people it's good for. It's not good for the average citizen to know that there is this collusion with the government and the media to, hey, here's my speech. Why don't you take out the points that you agree with and then start talking about those points before I even speak, just to kind of lube people up for those points. Just not, what are you doing? It's so obvious too. So obvious. On Fox News, I'm watching before the speech, and like they were literally like quoting almost actual parts of the speech. So much for unbiased, you know what I'm saying? And the other side does it too. They're just as bad. I also don't like 70 Democrats didn't show. This all boils down what people in politics are to, you represent a specific group of people from a specific location. And you are choosing not to represent them in these moments. And yeah, I get it, especially after watching the speech. I definitely get it why people wouldn't want to go. Just time and time again, you're evil, you're awful people, you're not even standing for X, Y, and Z. Yeah, I get it. I do. But they're also going to lose ammo when things are reversed and Republicans don't show up for speeches. You start to lose your ability to enforce certain standards that you're going to want to have enforced when you're in power. It's really not a good look. Really not. I also really don't like that in this speech, he gave the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Connor Hellebuyck, who was the goalie for the men's hockey team, who just won gold. So, I mean, and a lot to unpack on this because, I mean, I get it. Guy played great. I think he had 41 out of 42 shots stopped on goal in the final game. Amazing numbers. The Presidential Medal of Freedom is the highest honor. It's like the Congressional Medal of Honor for civilians. It's the highest level you can get as a civilian. And I'm going to read this definition off right here. The Presidential Medal of Freedom is the highest civilian honor in the United States, awarded by the president to individuals who have made especially exceptional contributions to U.S. security, national interest, world peace, or significant public/private endeavors, established in 1963 by President John F. Kennedy. Where in there does it say hockey goalie? Okay, let's just go. Okay, U.S. security, no. National interest, that would be very tough to say that a gold medal is for a national interest. You know, I mean, of course it is sports-wise, but like when you talk national interest, you're usually talking safety. You're talking holding down civilization. We're talking world peace? No. Significant public/private endeavors. A gold medal is significant, yes. If that was the truth, Michael Phelps should have like 20 Presidential Medal of Freedoms on him. And, you know, what is insane, to this day, what is insane is John Walsh, who created NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, who started that organization. They actually came on my podcast, actually, that nonprofit on the No Politics about 2 years ago. He created that organization when his own son got kidnapped and murdered, said, you know what, I don't want this to happen to anybody else. So he creates NCMEC. Fast forward to today. NCMEC has recovered over 450,000 missing children, including in just 2024 alone. They recovered 91% of children that were reported missing in 2024. John Walsh does not have the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I can't find any record of it. But yet, we have some hockey goalie just got it at the State of the Union. It's so sick and tiring of seeing people use political timing to try to tickle the strings of people's patriotism. You know, he's not the only one to have done this, Trump either, where you just completely skip over very deserving individuals for this award entirely. Because I watched Barack Obama basically give this medal out to all of his friends, including Vice President Joe Biden, his own vice president. I've seen Donald Trump do that to his friends as well. And you're just demeaning the award. It's now become a popularity contest. Who is most popular at the given time when I could be on TV and do this is what the awards become, which it was never supposed to be this. Where is John Walsh's Presidential Medal of Freedom? That award does not mean shit until it is around John Walsh's neck. It's pathetic. And then literally, not even 10 minutes later, after he gives the Presidential Medal of Freedom to this goalie, no disrespect to the goalie either. No disrespect. Different categories, though. You want to make a sports award, then yeah, make a sports award. But literally, not even 10 minutes later after he gives this award out, Trump gives a shout out to an individual who lifted over 163 people out of Hurricane Katrina during the hurricane. I mean, who's putting these speeches together? You give the hockey goalie this prestigious award, and you're just like, oh, yeah, good job during Katrina, where you almost died. You individually brought out 163 people. 163 lives saving is a lot better than saving 40 shots on goal. And moving on. I'm going to get fired up more on that. I could probably go on. I've been dying the last couple of years seeing these celebrities with Instagram followers get this award. It swallowed me. But I really don't like the fact bringing up the previous administration. It's something that he's got to lose, Trump, because it's at this point, no one is thinking about Joe Biden. No one is. And by the way, guys, too, I'll make you think about him for a second. He's got, I believe, stage 4 cancer. Joe Biden probably will not make it through this year. Probably won't. I would be shocked, shell-shocked, if Joe Biden sees 2027. That will be a major event this year. Hopefully it does not happen. That will happen. Just to give you a random update on that. But Trump's got to stop bringing up the Biden administration. People have forgotten about it. It's done. It's over. You're now president. Don't waste the time. It's like either trying to pass the buck. You say, "Oh, well, we took over this, dude. You've been in over a year by now. Let's just move on." I didn't like that the 70 Democrats didn't go, but I also, you give them ammo on why they didn't want to go when you spent a good majority taking shots at them, at the ones who did come. Even when they stood up and clapped for the very few things that they did stand up for and clap for. I'm all for, okay, maybe once or twice, probably just once, if they don't stand for someone like I believe in one of his State of the Union addresses, like some kid for cancer that they didn't stand up for. They do that for a lot of these, which is really sucky to see half the government just like not stand for like this incredible moments. But they did stand for the stock insider trading bill, for trading stocks, for having inside knowledge, and banning that. And Trump still went after them when they stood up. And it just, if you're sitting there, you had a chance to not come and join everyone else. You decided to come, swallow your pride. You're sitting there. He's telling you you're not standing. You're a loser. You're evil, not standing. And then you stand, and then he's badgering you again for standing. It's got to be one or the other. I mean, to be honest, it's a little too much harped on that. I think if he just picked once or twice to where he could have picked on them for not standing and for things, then okay. But I mean, it really was a theme throughout the whole speech. When he brought out the Somali fraud that was exposed, I get it 1,000%. He spoke about the corruption affecting Minnesota. Yeah, I mean, all great things, yeah. But the corruption and the scandals and the briberies and the fraud, the majority of it, I would say to the 99.99% of it, is in that very room that you're speaking in. So when you go after Minnesota, I get it. But are you looking at the bigger picture here? And that is to your left, and it is to your right as you're speaking. the fraud, corruption, bribery, insider trading. Bigger picture. I mean, and or you could have used Somalia in the Somali fraud to bring people to that. Because I don't think a lot of people are seeing what's right in front of them. I thought a really, a segment for Democrats here was when that was not a good one. This was really an awful moment for them in particular, because Trump asks, I would like all the representatives in the room to please stand up if you put the interest of American citizens first above the interest of illegal aliens. And no Democrats stood up for this. And I get it. You don't want to stand for anything. You don't want to even acknowledge you agree with anything. But, and Trump has you cornered here because, again, there's no debate. No one else has a microphone here. So he's playing chess with you. And it is just such an awful look for you. Such an awful look to be sitting there. The whole half of the side stands and you remain seated, essentially and symbolically stating that you agree you will not put American citizens' interest above illegal aliens, which is not, because then that just boils into the whole premise of why they truly are against voter ID bills. And you're just giving them ammo. And this is really the part where you see Ilhan Omar start really shouting at Trump during this time. And I thought it was going to get bad, like it did the last State of the Union, where they actually stopped it. And Speaker of the House had to make a couple of comments and say, order, basically. I thought it was going to go there. It did not. But, really, really leaves you with that, because what's going to happen now is anytime anything comes up, Trump and the Republicans are now going to refer to that moment as, you remember during that speech and they didn't stand up? Just not good looks. And then I understand maybe why the 70 Democrats just didn't want to come. But to continue on this a little bit is going to boil into my last one as well. Seeing, I hate hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is like a knife in your spine. Seeing some of the Democrats wear the release the Epstein files stickers on their shirts. I get it. I agree. There's a lot of corruption with the release and the redacted and then the non-release of documents, which clearly is at this point is just never going to happen. We are never, ever, ever going to have the full story of the Epstein files, of which we know that the people in power have. We're just, at this point, never going to get the full story of it. And there's reasons why. There's reasons why we think we know, and then there's reasons that we probably don't even know. Seeing the Democrats wear those pins or those stickers, for the last 4 years, they've had those files themselves. And for the last 4 years, they have not released them at all. Decided to, I don't know what you would consider. There wasn't even an attempt at all. And now all of a sudden, they say they care. So when a group of people says that they care now, when they spent all of these years not caring, they just happen to suddenly care when it may benefit them politically. Very ironic to me. Now, with that said, obviously, I mean, Trump had that information since Epstein, before he was arrested, when he was arrested, and then after he killed himself. And then got the information again, which now it's really clear that he is and his administration are leaking what they want to leak out about certain people, and most likely are using the files that they have withheld to blackmail world leaders, celebrities, and financiers and people of power across the whole world to achieve their global goals. That's very clear, because there's no other reason to withhold those. And if you are withholding those, you are obviously leveraging them. So it's interesting on that. I will say that our government is clearly corrupt on the entire scale. It's hard to listen to what I just said and not come to that conclusion. I don't know how else you would come to a conclusion where you can say that they're not entirely corrupt at this point. You know? And yeah, there's some great guys and people, and so that are a few that are calling for the full release, even though they themselves have said that they know the majority of who is really in the files that aren't being released, but then yet they themselves are not releasing it themselves, which means that, okay, now you are valuing your own personal risk and personal reservations more than the actual task at hand, which is sticking up for the victims of this crime, ensuring it doesn't happen again, and ensuring that there's accountability on the perpetrators. And for that, you know, if you're an average citizen, that's fine if you want to be that weak, but you are representing the citizens of this country, and you do not have that luxury to put yourself first when you're representing people. And if you are that way, you need to step down immediately. And I'll finish up. I mean, really, like, this is why I said before, speech was way too long. Trump got way overconfident. He's talking about the Congressional Medal of Honor that he was giving out, and he said that he joked that he should consider giving himself the Congressional Medal of Honor. And then he kind of caught himself and was like, I don't know what it would be for, though. That is awful. It, in no way, shape, or form would that ever have happened. The Congressional Medal of Honor is only for the military. That's it. If you didn't serve in the military, you would never get the Congressional Medal of Honor. Never happen. It's not even a possibility. Now, what Trump also brings on to him when he says this is that, if you remember, Trump during the Vietnam War, I believe it was, got out of the draft because of like bone spurs in his heel, you know? And nobody really thinks about that or talks about it or dives into it to the degree where, you know, I guess he was this amazing baseball player and athlete growing up in high school, but then came across these bone spurs when it came time for the draft. So not a, you know, I mean, any realistically intelligent person who knows people can come to a conclusion after knowing his social status and his high degree of physicality, and then see his ironic, sudden bone spur injury that came at a time when a lot of his social status would be temporarily on hold in order for a deep personal sacrifice overseas. So when he makes a joke like that, he brings all of this back to the front. And I really think that that's going to be brought up from different talking heads, as, you know, it probably should. if you're joking about you should give yourself a Congressional Medal of Honor, maybe the most self-inherited thing I've ever heard a president ever say. Absolutely awful on all degrees. You cannot get away with saying that. I'm sorry. You cannot. There are so many people that have died, have been killed, tortured, prisoner of war, cut into pieces, body parts chopped off, castration, vivisections, which is when they cut you open and dissect you alive as POWs. And you're going to joke that maybe you should get a Medal of Honor. Insane. An insane comment. And I will say that what was really left out of this speech that I would have loved to see is anything on the Epstein files. Obviously, that was not going to happen because that would, again, bring something to the spotlight that is not probably personally desired to be brought to the spotlight by Trump's administration. Also telling there, I thought it was, overall, I thought the speech was more authentic than most State of the Union speeches if you watch past presidents. If you watch past presidents, their speeches are typically just like these hoorah, very monotoned speeches, and Trump is not polished, which I think helps him in many, many ways, like these speeches, because you know you're getting him, you are getting how he feels, and generally you can pick up when he is being dishonest, and you know he's being dishonest, and you know that he knows he's being dishonest, which is easy to detect with him, which is very hard to detect with a speaker like a Barack Obama, you know, where you almost have to read the transcript to see where he's lying. So overall, with all of this said, I think it was a little bit long. I think he hit the issues and the people that he brought on to represent the issues he wanted to hit. I think he couldn't have done a better job on in showing, hey, violence is happening due to whether it be immigration or some other cashless bail issue, which is also a political issue, where he brought up Irina Zarutsky, the woman from Ukraine who was killed on the train or the bus, stabbed from behind for no reason. He brought on her mom to show, you know, that this is real. This is happening. I mean, look, this is an immigrant who was here trying to get a better life from Ukraine, and look what happened to her. So I think he's a master at using these people's experiences to showcase just how either bad or how good something is occurring that he wants to communicate to people in a way that he feels it should be communicated in. So overall, I mean, like I said in the beginning of this, pretty much what you'd expect in a State of the Union speech by Trump. The next three are probably going to be the same exact way. Excuse me, the next two. So appreciate you guys listening. If you haven't checked out my series, guys, of CORRUPTSTRAUNTS, got a couple new episodes brewing. Please take a look at those. They're doing really, really well on YouTube. Just cracked over 20,000 subscribers. Thank you to all the new listeners, the current listeners, people who have been listening since day one. I appreciate this so much. I hope you guys got a lot of value out of this, and I filled you in on the State of the Union address. I do try to do this during these long speeches because a lot of times people just don't want to listen to a 2-hour talk. So if I can take this in 49 minutes and break it down for you in this way and give you a little bit of a historical context, that is what makes the Bullock and my podcast different, is bringing historical context to an issue to provide a little bit of a better perspective than you're going to get at like talking point head podcasts that are politically driven with a motive. So new episode of Bullock coming out this week as well. Going to bring back in a dive deep into the Epstein files from a different angle. You'll be surprised. And I'll see you then.
This is unbelievable.
How we don't know more about this stuff is insane.
No one is talking about this.